Hi guys, this is Rick Leonardi, penciler for Spider-Man 2099, Cloak and Dagger, and a zillion other things besides. Robin Lives, coming out next month, is my latest. And the podcast you need to be listening to is 11 O'Clock Comics. You got that? 11 O'Clock Comics. Pretty much perfect.
I try.
Hate to give compliments, but when they're warranted,
I don't think you do,
gotta do it.
I don't know. Well, okay, maybe you hate giving them to me, but yeah, no, I've heard you give compliments.
To whom? Don't be spreading lies. Dirty, filthy lies. Yes. Ooh, I'm drinking.
You gotta be dirty and filthy.
Well, because it sounds better. You dirty, filthy whore. That doesn't sound...
A tuna sandwich for dinner. That was a tuna burp.
Oh, God.
Oof.
Yeah.
Oof.
Now, this is our first Blue Sky promoted podcast, so let's not fuck it up.
Oh, please, bro. I love that platform. I could just, as long as you will keep...
some Blue Sky, and we on Mastodon.
We're on it all.
Yeah, for those of you listening...
We're on Mastodon.
For those of you listening for the first time, we've been at this for 16 years. Couldn't tell it. Nope. You have no idea.
Nope.
No.
Oh, hey. We're all going.
Hey, everybody. It's 11 O'Clock Comics, episode 956. Add them up. And I'm Vince B.
You are Vince B. We're on the road to 1,000. I am David A. Price.
Like every day's the first day.
Every damn hustling. And of course, yes, you are, in fact. And I am none other than Linear Man.
Okay. You're very obvious. You're not Linear Man. You're Jason Wood, everybody. Together once again, just talking about comics. Brought to you by cheapgraphicnovels.com. Say it with me. Clear your throat. cheapgraphicnovels.com. Right. That's where you go. It sucks. Whatever. That's where you go to get your omnibus editions, your trade paperbacks, your collected editions, your OGNs, manga, all that stuff for far less than everybody else is paying. Look on the back of the books and you'll see a retail price and you can giggle to yourself because you know you're not going to pay that. You're going to pay far less. And get this, if you're a first-time customer, all you have to do is place an order, limit yourself because there's a reason. I'll get to it. Place a small order, and once Max gets wind of it, you're going to get an email response, and you're going to reply to that saying, you know what? I would never have known about this place if not for 11 O'Clock Comics. And Max is going to say, well, here's something for you, little man or woman. Next order, you're going to get free shipping. And that is when you tank up on everything you always wanted to buy. Because you're not paying for the shipping. And they have a list of specials to which I recently subscribed. Deb, you want to tell us what they are? Okay.
Oh, you recently subscribed, did you?
I did.
Look at you.
I did. Yeah, I wasn't subscribed to it. I don't know why. It beats me.
You're so silly. Yeah, there were some pretty interesting picks in this week's email. Starting off with Max's pick, of course, because it's none other than Local Man Volume 3, Lost Ones trade paperback. 30% off, comes out to $13.29. It collects the last issues of Local Man, numbers 10 through 13, numbers 25, and the Local Man Bad Girls one-shot. The second volume of the Daniel Warren Johnson written Transformers, Transport to Oblivion. 30% off, $11.89. Jorge Corona has now joined the creative team and collects Transformers 7 through 12. For Vince, we got the Creepshow Deluxe Book 1 hardcover. You've got two choices.
Not for Vince, but I get you.
You got two choices for your covers, Burnham or March. 30% off, $27.99. Excuse me, a whole slew of creative talents like Michael Walsh, Paul Dini, Becky Cloonan, David and Maria Lapham collects volumes 1 and 2 of Creepshow numbers 1 through 5. So 10 issues total there. And the big one this time around is the, and I'm not going to go into it too deep, but it's the Brian Boland's Batman, The Killing Joke, and Other Stories and Art Gallery Edition hardcover. This is 20% off, comes in at $180. It's 280 pages of a large format 13 by 20 hardcover. So if you love your artist editions, if you love those graffiti designed artist edition type books, then this can join it on the shelf. Aside from the Killing Joke story from 1988 and an afterword by Brian, there's an introduction by Richard Starkings. You've got various stories like from Batman Black and White or Mystery in Space, The Outsiders. You've got the 5-page story that he did from Justice League of America number 200, one of my all-time favorite comics ever. The covers, Wonder Woman, Camelot 3000, house ads. There's just, if you are a Brian Boland DC fan, and you're missing anything that he's ever done for the company, this collects a lot of it, and yeah, it seems like it's a massive thing. So that was Max's number one pick this week. But there were some interesting items, and even on the new releases, if you're on the Slack channel, there were a couple of items that didn't make it onto this little list that we shared with the
right.
With
you can only find out what those were. You can only find out what those are by joining our Patreon. Patreon.com/11 o'clock comics. So there you go.
Yes, sir.
Nice. At the risk of being ridiculed, but I don't care about stuff like that. Because this may not be legit enough for people who drink this stuff. But I didn't want to get wine this week. And I wasn't feeling beer because it gets me all bloated with the beer, and I feel like shit the next day. So I got some bourbon whiskey, but I didn't get I didn't get Maker's Mark though, because I'm number one cheap.
Right.
So what I did get, I got Jim Beam. But this is not
white label.
This is not just Jim Beam. This is called Jim Beam Kentucky Fire, because it's cinnamon liqueur.
Oh my God!
Infused with Kentucky straight bourbon whiskey, 32.5% alcohol by volume, 65 proof. I love cinnamon. I love the burn. The spicier, the better. And this is this is layman spicy. It's okay. It's not like you wouldn't drink this and be like, oh shit, my face is on fire. It's all right. But it's not beer. It's not wine. And it's very warming. You know what I mean? You get that warm tingle when you swallow it. So it's fine. I shouldn't say fine, because fine sucks. It's not bad.
Since it is a liqueur, it's best used for cocktails, for mixing. You don't necessarily drink that straight, or
not
even
what the bottle says.
Usually drink it by itself. Okay.
Bottle says sip chilled, straight, mixed, or topped with soda. Drink it any damn way you please.
Or topped with soda.
Yeah.
Well, yes, you can drink anything
but I'm just drinking it right out of the bottle. I don't even have a glass.
There you go.
I'm like, fuck
Take it to the head.
Yep.
Nice.
Yes. Well, as we were joking, I don't know. Yeah, I don't know if it made it, if it was pre-show stuff or it made it in the intro, but my not drinking much is out the window temporarily. So I too am enjoying some fine cordials. Although I can't tell you what I'm drinking other than that it's some kind of red wine, because my lovely wife is hosting a book club this evening. Holiday tradition. She always hosts a holiday one, and so my house is full of ladies having spirited conversation. So I just came downstairs before the show, and there were a bunch of bottles open, and I poured myself a big honking glass of one of the reds, but forgot to take a picture of what it was. So don't know what I'm drinking, but it tastes good, and it's some kind of red. Tastes like a blend. So yes.
There you go. It's all that matters.
Yes.
I have a feeling that that beer fridge will be empty within the next couple of weeks.
No, you don't
drink that.
Beer in 45 years. Yeah.
45 years?
4 or 5 years.
Oh, I was like, yeah, it's a long time.
Yeah.
I am working on finishing off that bottle of the unrated cab that I was having last week.
Nice. Hey, before we jump into the comics and circling back because the cheap graphic novels talk, you did remind me that another way that our listeners who haven't partaken yet in cheap graphic novels can dip their toes is if they cast a ballot in our 11 O'Clockers.
Look at that.
Because one lucky submission when we do the O'Clockers episode in January will be selected and given by us in partnership with CGN a lovely gift certificate to use at their service. And the amount will vary based on how many entries we get, and it can go up to $200. It's
a lot.
If we get enough entries.
You can almost buy that Brian Boland book.
Yeah, last year, I forget who won last year. I'll have to look it up, but they received $100, and I think they did in fact buy themselves two Nick and Dent Absolutes.
Oh, that's
so
pretty awesome.
Getting 2 Absolutes for free, basically, just by casting a couple votes. And the other thing, as a reminder to people, because we haven't talked about it in a few weeks, is we are completely revamping the O'Clockers this year. Rather than asking you to select your favorites in over 30 different categories, which can admittedly be tricky for people that aren't taking copious notes of everything they read, we're just 2 categories this year. We want your 10 favorite comics, which can be anything, can be a run, it can be, an event, it can be a single issue, it can be a collection, whatever you want. 10 of them, the 10 things that you love the most that you read this year, and your top 5 creators. And again, that can be a writer, an artist, a colorist, a letterer, an editor if you want. Be a weird thing, but if you want to pick an editor, go nuts. So, and that's it, and we will take your submissions. I will throw them into the Excel, do the smithing. We'll come up with a consensus list from y'all, and of course, we will then present each of our 10 and 5s this year. So
nice.
Big changes at the O'Clockers, but we think it'll be a fun switch up.
I think it's a more accurate assessment of what floated our collective boat over the year, but I'm a little bit scared of recency bias because it's possible. Because most people can be like, oh, yeah, absolute Batman shit, number 1. But was it really number 1? Like, it's very good, but there are other things out there.
Yes, and the easiest way to, if you are saying, well, that sounds great, where do I vote? There is, if you go to our website, which is 11o'clockcomic.com, 11o'clock.com, King Dap put up, what?
You're breaking up again.
Oh, okay.
It's okay. Keep going.
Well, you can tell them where to find it then.
I think they heard most of it.
Okay. Yeah, just go to the website, 11o'clockcomics.com, and there is on the top left a tab marked as such that King Dap put up there, and it will open up the Google form for you to cast your vote. Nice.
It's pretty awesome.
Mm-hmm. And that is the great thing about the Google form is that once you do sign in and save it, you can make your changes.
Yes.
You said the Google form.
The Google forms.
The Google. I like the Google, but I don't want to use the Google.
You living that DuckDuckGo life?
No, it doesn't bring up enough searches, and I don't think Bing is any better. I don't know. There's no.
Oh God, no.
Because Google. I mean, if you search for something on Google, you're going to find something. You're taking a risk with the other ones, but what are you going to do? You know what I mean? I don't know, Dap. All I know is that we came here to talk comics, and that's what we're going to do.
Damn right.
Yes. I maybe mentioned something that we could talk about already.
Okay.
Yeah. I see it on your lists. Absolute Batman number 2.
Oh, yes.
What'd you think?
Thought it was super hot fire. Thought it was phenomenal.
Yeah. I noticed that it wasn't as long as the first one because the first one was extra long, and I was like, oh, loving it. This is the way to do it. A first issue that's extra length is going to rope them in, give them a whole bunch of stuff to chew on, and so this one felt quick by comparison, but it was less pages. I don't know if I'm so sold on Gotham's R Gang yet. Like the idea that Bruce's friends are his rogues. Like, I don't know. Like, okay, I don't want to keep saying but, the fact that he's at a poker table with Dent and
Enigma and
Penguin.
Oswald.
Yeah, it's weird. And he's waiting. He's pining for Selena, but that's a given, right? It just feels very our gang to me, like Bruce's Spanky, who was always the smartest of the R gang, right? And the girl Darla it just has this air of me and my pals hanging out, and we know who these people are. The whole fact that the shock value of having Bruce, having his close circle of friends being in our, I don't want to say 616, but in the DC universe proper, these people are his sworn enemies. So I get it. You flip the switch, but it just feels a little weird, doesn't it? Like you're waiting for them all to just be switched on and be like going for his throat, It just feels odd to me. I don't know
if they might not all end up becoming rogues. They may stay close knit. It is one of those things where because it is meant to be an alternate take on well established continuity. It's one of those things where they completely do a 180, and you're not sure yet if it's just a little forced or if this could actually be a natural relationship. And I mean, listen, we're 2 issues in. Yes, it is. It went by quick. For being a second issue, it felt like Snyder packed a lot in here without having the breathing room that the first issue had. The first issue was fantastic because it was slow, it was deliberate. The way we see Batman in action for the first time, it had that cinematic feel. It was great. This felt a little compressed. I was surprised when I got to the end and I was like, oh shit, it's over. So there was still a lot going on. We got a lot more as far as Bruce's friends, a little bit more of that day at the zoo. We find out that what?
No, if Snyder keeps the friends intact and they remain friends, that's awesome. I would rather see that than have one.
Yes, yeah.
And the Penguin's the weak link. Right, you could tell because they're like, you're not legit. You don't do anything above board. Yeah. So I mean, if one of them turns, that's okay. But I don't want to see them all eventually fall like dominoes because that's boring. Like the novelty, the novelty in it is that they're friends. So keep them friends.
Yeah. Well, I don't think we can in today's day and age count on this book going on for years and years and years, and I think it would take that long. Schneider would be compelled to turn a bunch of these guys into their more well-known evil counterparts. I just don't see that as likely.
Yeah, and since Vince just brought it up, I could see once Joker becomes an actual presence, that I could see maybe Oswald kind of getting lured in that direction.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to write it or guess where Snyder's going. I did appreciate the last panel because it was reminiscent of the Gotham TV show, because Selena Kyle on that was very similar with the hoodie, with the ears, and even though it's just one image, it evoked that for me. Yeah. I keep having to remind myself to be pleasantly surprised because Frank Martin colors this book, and it's a lot more colorful than some of his older work from back in the day, especially like when he did Captain America. That when Epting was drawing it, Martin used to color things very dark.
Yeah,
he is.
I think
still,
Epting added to the darkness of the book because that guy probably has rooms full of ink. He uses so much of it. You know what I mean? Yeah. I don't envy Snyder because it's tough to put a new interesting spin on Batman, but if a Batman book, a reinvention of Batman landed in my lap, the one thing I definitely would not do, you would not see hide or hair of the Joker ever. in the book. Like, that is the one character, maybe editorial mandated it. Like, okay, you got to do this. You got to include the Joker somewhere. But I would do my best to get that character far away from the book, because it's at this point, it's expected. You know, where's Batman? Well, the Joker's got to be here somewhere. And I laughed out loud at the one panel. I could almost sense Snyder cracking his knuckles and saying, okay, Miller claimed goddamn Batman. Well, I'm going to claim Batman AF. That's mine. And it's like, okay.
I saw that.
I like it. It works for me.
I'm not mad at it at all.
No, it's a great little panel.
I can't wait to see. Yeah, that panel is going to be the header for so many Facebook and Blue Sky pages. It's insane.
The only bad thing about it is it's a little too. The height is a little too much, because I couldn't use it as a featured image. I wanted to, but it just if I centered the Batman AF within the featured image frame, the burning eyes fell out of frame, no matter how I scaled it. So I'm like, I can't do it. Yeah, it's a neat little panel.
Should we have a Blue Sky page for the show, or do we already have one? Maybe the upgraded one. I don't know.
Yeah, I didn't do it, but I'm gonna start posting on mine, which only has 2 posts.
No, I'm saying we should create.
We should. Yeah,
but I'm happy to, because I don't think I'm going to be very active. I might lurk, and I don't think I'm going to use my personal account to post a lot. But I would mess with posting comic stuff on if we had a
well, that would be fine if you did that.
Okay,
and I would do it now, because it seems like they're chumming the waters over at Blue Sky. Like, people are going crazy. People have gained thousands of followers in a day. So,
no doubt, yeah,
that's fine. No, I enjoyed this issue very much. I think the art was a bit. This is going to sound stupid, but I think there was something. There was more. It seems like there was a more clarity of purpose in this issue than there was in the first. If that, it seems it was more focused, because the scope wasn't as all over the place as the first issue, where you had basically Alfred, Bruce, and the gang going on, and the antagonist. That's it. Like, the first issue, there was stuff all over the place, and things were constantly shifting and stuff. This one seemed a little bit tighter to me, a little bit more dialed in. But I mean, the art was as good as the first issue. It just seemed this one had more of a purpose of intent. You know what I mean?
Yeah, there were a lot of pages with a ton of panels in them, which was nice, because this way we kind of get the whole we get the relationship with Jim and Martha, like, over the course of a couple of pages, while he's recuperating in the hospital. Same thing with the poker scene. That was just over a handful of pages, because he's got like over a dozen panels on a page. It which is, again, probably why the issue felt it went by so quickly, because there are some panels, like when Batman's walking through the office building and before he gets to the terminal, and it's silent, and you just see him walking around, and then you get the conversation pages that are just crammed with panels, because they're just and that's the way people talk. People are, when you're razzing your friends, that things go by a little quick. So I like the way those pages were laid out, because you got Snyder writing dialogue, and Nick is positioning everything, laying everything out, and you've got panels where you see someone's hand or arm or head, but the word balloon was in it. I just really I like the way this issue was set up. Yes, it went by kind of quick. Obviously, it was shorter than the first issue, but we still got there was some bang for your buck in this issue.
I'm going to go on a limb and make a prediction that probably won't come true, but who knows? I look at character design and I ask myself, what are the reasons for these character redesigns? And Thomas Wayne was a slight man, right? Gord's built like a brick shit house.
Oh, shit.
Martha is visiting Gordon in the hospital. I'm betting that Gordon's Bruce's father.
I love it.
Yep.
I can see it.
Why not?
Why would you alter a character if there wasn't a purpose? I mean, yeah, it does happen. People just change things for the sake of changing things. But on a book of this caliber, having Gordon being all beefcake like that, I'm guessing that is reflected in his son's body type as well. Just saying.
Would be.
Yeah.
Could be.
But it's very interesting. It's a nice little... I think it's a novel take for right now on Batman, and I'm enjoying it. I'm not putting too much stakes in it and saying, oh yeah, it's, I'm not comparing it to other Batman stories. It's for right now. It's fun. It's captured my attention, and that's all I really want from a Batman story at this point.
Nice.
Yeah. Neat stuff.
Yeah, I'm with you. Excuse me. Yep, I'm with you.
What else we got?
Well, since we're talking DC. Right.
Oh, shit. I got a DC-O-Rama. Let me get this down. I have an O-Rama of my own.
I bet you do.
Wow.
Don't have to spend a lot of time on this, but I know you boos have been talking this stuff up for a long-ass time.
How long? I want to hear it. How long? In years.
About as long as I've been talking about Bad Blay. About the same.
No, you don't know. You cannot.
Oh, inside jokes.
No, you can't counter with that. I asked for a number. How long? Maybe 15, 16 years? So long as we know you in this arena?
I mean, again, I do honestly remember you all gushing about this with Niesman quite often because they had that...
there you go.
Back then when he was on the show, there was the whole, the new Triangle Era, right? There was because he sent me the issues to read, I remember. Like he actually sent me a box of the single issues at the time. Of the new, remember they did like the new version of it? Do you not remember that?
Yes. This was during Busiek and Yep.
So with Atlas and stuff.
And John's.
Yeah.
You
with the OG, because I remember you all talked about that way back. So, yes, so I have... As alluded a week or two ago, I did acquire the Triangle Era Omnibus, and I cracked it open this week, and I read about 180 pages. So I read Superman 49 through 53, Adventures of Superman 472 through 476, Starman 28, and Action Comics 659 through 662. So you all did a very deep dive on a big chunk of that same stuff, last week or the week before. So we don't have to revisit it from a plot perspective, but I know you all were curious what I thought. And I will, I'm like Fleece, I have some questions, which I will put to you guys in a few seconds, but overall, I can see why you guys love it. I think that the art, almost like to an issue, is fantastic. And not to sound like an old head, but I don't know that, like, in a world where there's a lot of different artists doing that, there were a lot of different artists doing those books, right, over that run, even just whatever that is, 20 some issues, excuse me. And I think for the most part, almost every issue was beautiful. And I don't know that in today's parlance, I think there are still great artists, but in a lot of big two books where they're rotating artists or have artists come for 2 or 3 issues and move on, you don't get that consistency of quality.
Right.
I must admit, I know you've talked about it, so I wasn't surprised by it, but it did strike me as a incredibly important series of issues, right? Like some pretty big stuff happens, but I'm also left with questions. And the probably the biggest compliment I can give it is because of when it came out, I think it's really well written. Meaning, and again, like it's written, there's a bunch of different writers, but it's not too expository. There's not too much of the recap. There is a little of the, like, this is what you missed last issue, and let's spend a page or two on that. But it's not as bad as many other comics of the era. And considering this was the early 90s, there was a lot of really bad comics on the stands. And this reads more like, to me, like really high quality Bronze Age, like in terms of that. Like it seems like, and I think I have to give a lot of credit to that, to the structure, right? The whole reason you guys love the Triangle Era is that it's, there's this really tight narrative between all of the books, and I think that really helps carry the baton for this stuff. Because even though there are, at least in the chunk I read, some one-offs or two-offs, there is still that undercurrent of you feel like you're picking it up each day in the life of Clark, and that to me makes it a lot more enjoyable. So yeah, overall, I can definitely. It wouldn't be hard for me to project that if I was reading this off the stands back then, it would be like one of my favorite things, because like it's certainly of its time was super high quality superhero stuff. But I have to say that there are a couple things I just maybe didn't realize. First of which, most importantly, and I know you guys mentioned this, but for those that maybe don't remember, this in this first chunk of the omnibus and these issues. Clark proposes to Lois, and he also tells her that he's Superman. And I guess I knew that because you talked about it, but I didn't realize until this week that that's the first time that ever happened outside of the Earth 2 stuff that happened before Crisis, which again, was a whole different world. So how the fuck did DC get away for 50 years of stories with fucking Lois never figuring out that Clark is or they're never being told that? Like,
dude, it's the glasses. It's the glasses.
The Silver Age is wild, man. Yeah. It's absolutely. It wasn't just silver.
It was bronze. It was the Burn era. Like I assumed.
The bronze. No. Well, yes, it was. Yeah, I mean, Burn eventually he modernizes the character, and I didn't ever read an interview, so I don't know if maybe that.
Like, this stuff is right after the Burn era, right?
Yes, yeah. So I don't know if
right.
this. I don't know if Byrne was ever planning on maybe if he was going to stay on it, if he was actually going to ever do that. I know that it absolutely makes sense. I mean, it was a wild time for me reading these at DC, because it's at this point at where we are right now. Dick Grayson's been Nightwing longer than he's ever been Robin. So I mean, it's amazing that DC will do these like just. I don't want to say spontaneous, but they'll do these like monumental things, and it's like, and we just kind of shrug it off now. But yeah, there was it just like with the whole Bane and Batman thing. There's.
Well, that's my question. How did you guys feel? Because you were reading this as it happened. How did you feel at the time? And also, not just yourselves, but your comic booze, your Wednesday. You go into this store, like, what was the buzz among DC fans when that happened? Was it like it's about damn time? Was it a, holy shit, I can't believe they did that? Was it a, that sucks, they shouldn't do this because that's not what the characters are all about? Was it some combination of them, depending on which fan you ask? Like, what was the reaction?
I didn't hate it. I was a massive fan of it. I thought it was great because I did read a lot of those Silver and Bronze Age stories. And you also have to remember back then, especially the Silver Age and also into the Bronze Age, but primarily Silver Age, a lot of the Superman comics, they were all standalone stories. It was like a sitcom where whatever happens in the issue, it's reset by the end, so to say. Like whatever so there weren't, and sometimes you had multiple stories in an issue. So nothing ever really changed back then. There was no monthly plot line really going on.
Clark was the costume back then, right? And then obviously modern era Superman is more about Superman and Clark. Like Clark being as fully fleshed out as
because there was no Superboy. So yeah, it was just he was always Clark until he reached adulthood and went to the city. And but no, I can't recall too much uproar. I'm sure there was. I'm sure if I dig up some CBGs or even some Amazing Heroes, that I'm sure some people were probably losing their shit because it's not my Superman. But I appreciated it because knowing what Byrne did with the character and what folks like Jurgens and Stern and Ordway were doing with it after Byrne left, that it was a step in the right direction. They were modernizing the character. Yeah, I don't know if the Adventures of Lois and Clark might have kind of did something with it, since obviously that show was popular. But
it was the same time. I always thought of this stuff as older than that. Like until I even though you guys have talked about it a million times, I guess I never really codified that this was stuff that happened after Byrne and in the 90s. Like, because that wasn't that long ago, or at least, for us, it wasn't that long ago. Like
the issue the issue of Adventures of Superman that you read with Hal and Guy is cover dated December 1990.
Yeah. So there you go.
So yeah, it was just
Vince, do you remember how you felt? Like, did you care one way or the other, or did you think it was cool? Or
I mean, taking yourself out of the story, creatively, I thought it was a very brave thing to do. Because when the perpetuation of the status quo is hinged on the tension between two characters, like this, the best example is Moonlighting, right? When those two characters got together, finally, it all fell apart. Right. So when does she love him? Does he love her? Like, when that is the question, you have to maintain that. And coming in and saying, you know what? We're going to get these two characters together, and she's finally going to know. Like, that was a risk at the time, because diehard Superman fans could have hated it.
Yeah, for sure.
But I thought
back then we almost all of us were pretty protective of the continuity. We did not generally love major changes. Like, it was hard to get major changes over. So
no, I thought it was very good. Creatively, I thought it was a nice kick in the pants. Meaning that, okay, DC is willing to take chances. I wasn't crazy about the whole Batman Bane thing. Not because of any loyalty I have to Batman. I just thought it was weak sauce. Like, Bane was like a big dipshit who just, you know what I mean? Like, where that was like, it seemed that was more of a marketing stunt, which it was. But it seemed like the Lois, and Clark story was more of a natural progression of these characters realizing that, that they should be together. Also, and it was a marketing stunt.
Ordway draws a gorgeous Lois Lane.
Yes,
I think
absolutely.
Jokes aside, I mean, I feel like for probably because of the Christopher Reeves movie, Margot Kidder, like, a lot of times, they do draw Lois somewhat, or even cast her as somewhat, skinny, like not really curvy and like pretty, but like a little bit more of a fierce look because she's an investigative reporter. I thought in a lot of this run, and I don't know if this persists depending on as the artist change, but like, she was gorgeous, like legit, like model level gorgeous, which, again, I understand people maybe think that's off model, but I thought it was great because I'm like, okay, yeah, because like the Man of Steel would have a dime. He wouldn't be marrying he'd be marrying a dime piece, like that's right.
I don't necessarily know about that. I mean, if Clark loved somebody, he wouldn't care if they were a dime or not.
Okay. Well, moving on. Question number 2. Lex Luthor fucked Perry White's wifey?
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. What? That is scandalous.
Oh my God.
That is scandalous.
That's what you focus on, dude?
It starts off that's how Omnibus starts off.
I know.
It starts off with Lex at the gravesite being like, I can't believe my dead son is buried under Perry White Jr. name. And I'm like, wait, what? I'm like, that is scandalous.
Yeah, they went there. Yep.
Lex was a cad.
Wait do you see what
and then Lex Jr. he was banging his secretary, he was banging his doctor. Like, my man just like got in there.
Well, like, that's not the only thing he bangs.
Okay, yeah, cool. I mean, yeah, but I was just like, damn, that's raw. That's rugged and raw.
He's a dog. Yeah.
Yeah, but also, like, Mrs. White's a skeezer. Like, did he trick her or like drug her? Or was it like consensual? Or,
can you promise to never call Mrs. White a skeezer ever again?
She's a straight hoe, dude. Straight hoe.
No, she's not. She made a mistake.
Okay, another thing. The obligatory, like, remember in the 80s, you'd watch a sitcom and then there'd be like the random episode that was serious, like the Different Strokes child molester issue.
Yeah.
Episode. Yep. We got the drunk driving issue in this, where Clark. Okay, I get it, like it ever, like whatever. But and again, I'm going to show my Superman naivete there, though. Like, fucking Clark didn't realize he had powers until he was like 17.
It's a little weird. Just because let's shit on the Legion as much as we possibly can.
Yeah, I thought that was really whack. It read as whack for me as someone. I was like because I'm a Marvel head, and obviously for that, like, most people manifest their powers in puberty, which makes sense biologically, and as much as superpowers have logic. And I thought, okay, so dude's like almost a grown ass man. He's like 18. He's been playing football, and he just realizes because of a car crash that he's invulnerable. Like, never before he's had anything.
Yeah.
The football thing in high school, Byrne actually addressed that in the Man of Steel miniseries, because Clark somehow realizes that he does have advantages over other players. And right now I don't remember if he talked to his father about it or if he just removed himself. But it's weird. I haven't gotten to the to that particular issue yet in the Omnibus, so I'll see what kind of memories that triggers.
You might not have.
It's
okay. I was going to say
it's just silliness.
You might not have an answer to this then either, because a few issues later, the Linear Man sends him through time, and he meets up with the Legion.
And that's where they tried. Well, actually, oh no, go ahead. I'm sorry, I don't want to.
No, I was just going to say, I know obviously from Crisis. I mean, I've read Crisis several times. I know obviously the whole history there of getting rid of Superboy and him, that never happened. Post that he in this chunk of comics he was never Superboy. I get that, but is this appearance, as far as you know, the first time post Crisis that he interacts with the Legion, or had that happened? Okay, so
even though Byrne removes Superboy. That Kal-El was ever Superboy when he was growing up, removes that completely out of the equation. There is a crossover during Byrne's time, still writing the books and drawing the books, between the three titles, that the Legion does come to their past and meet Superman. And Byrne, being funny guy, he takes one of the covers and he basically he homages himself. The issue 249 of Fantastic Four, where Gladiator from the Shi'ar Empire is holding up, has the Fantastic Four all around him. Byrne does that exact same cover with, instead of Gladiator, obviously it's Superman, and the Fantastic Four is represented by Block. And basically everybody who Invisible Kid, everybody who emulates so the Legion comes back, and this is the first time Superman meets them, and Byrne tries to kind of like reestablish continuity so that the Legion can still exist and sort of kind of have a tie to the Kryptonian. It wasn't all that clean. He didn't do an immaculate job of cleaning up his mess, I don't think.
No, you're fucked up. Yeah, it's okay.
Okay.
Oh no, it's okay. I enjoy it. Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, and then there were obviously other little adventures that Plastic Man's in an issue. There's Terra Man and little Apocalypse kind of joint with Sleaze and stuff, and that was all fun. But yeah, I really did think it had a lot of heart, and I think it looked really great. Like I said, especially for the time. I mean, a lot of '90s comics looked over stylized and over muscular, and and maybe that happens. I mean, I know the Triangle era lasts for a decade effectively, so I'm sure there are a lot of issues that look like that, but maybe we're just a little too early in the '90s for that art style to pervade. So far, so good.
Yes. Well, I'm glad you finally read it. Yay.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
I'm even happier that you seem to have enjoyed it.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun, man. It was a lot of fun. High quality, for sure.
Awesome.
Yes.
All right. I've been negligent in my duties.
Oh.
Yes. I haven't brung any manga horror in quite a while.
You fucking slacker.
I know. So I have a twofer tonight, the first of which, and they're conceptually linked, and you'll find out why right now, or soon. The first one is a new book by Junji Ito.
Oh yeah,
current master of horror.
Yeah, I've heard of him.
He's very good. You should check into it.
Yeah.
This, this is not the typical Junji Ito fare. This is a largely prose book. I don't know if you ordered this. No, wait a minute. It's a prose book. It's called Uncanny, The Origins of Fear.
No, I didn't order it because I saw that it was different.
But it's good different, right?
Okay. Okay.
So one of the things that I love is when a creator is as interesting and vibrant and challenging as the work they create. We know many people like this. Howard Chaykin, right? Craig Yo. Simon Hanselman. Like they're all, I think the artist is as interesting, on many levels as the work they produce. And I didn't have that opinion about Junji Ito because he was largely faceless. Just reading his work, you never got the sense of what made the guy tick, unless you traipsed into the internet and read maybe an interview with him here or there. But my Ito consumption, and it's been all of it to date, is the opinion of the man was almost non-existent. Because I don't investigate. I didn't want to know internet level opinions or information on Junji Ito. I wanted to hear it right from the guy's mouth in a actual paper form. And that's exactly what this is. It's Junji Ito's early days, what he loves, why he makes the stories he makes, how he makes the stories he makes. There's a lot of process pics in here, a lot of sketches and outlines, and it's also a bit of a clip episode, right? We all kind of hate clip episodes, but in this case, there are passages in which panels are pulled from Junji Ito works. And he'll either embellish or give you reasons why he did what he did. But his influences are many, but the one that I was not surprised to hear was that he loves the work of Kazuo Umezz.
Oh, yeah.
And that...
Who doesn't?
Well, right. Well, that's what I'm bringing for the second part of this. Orochi, which is one of Umezz's great works. But I didn't know that Ito loves Ultra Q. Now, if you haven't seen Ultra Q, for shame. Ultra Q is the progenitor of everything that followed in terms of Ultraman, Kamen Rider. Like, without Ultra Q, none of that would have been possible. And it was a weekly Japanese. It was kind of like the progenitor of even the X-Files, because there was all these kaiju running around. They would give, sometimes the explanation for the existence of the kaiju was mystical. Sometimes it was scientific. But you can get them on Blu-ray now, and it's an amazing series. But it's the Ultra series in which Ultraman does not appear. Because it was the first. But Ito loves Ultra Q. Like, absolutely adores it. And I'm like, my man, I knew it. And then, the book segues into when he first started drawing manga and what propelled him and what inspired him. And this book is great. If you wanted to put a personality to the mangaka that has brought us all these awesome works of horror, you got to get Uncanny, because now I know Junji Ito. I know him now. I know him. And I'm very thankful for the opportunity to be presented with this book, because it's not often that we actually get an author's eye view into what makes them tick. It's like, this is Stephen King's Danse Macabre. Like, before I read that, Stephen King was just a name on a cover.
You're selling me, because you're speaking about several of my favorite authors. So
right, but yeah, we saw Stephen King in different things back then, but the actual character of Stephen King, like, it was a mystery. It was Stephen King, Richard Bachman, like, who are these people? But when I read Danse Macabre, I'm like, oh, okay. And on writing sealed the deal. That's when I really,
sure.
So I was like, this is kind of like a combination of Danse Macabre and On Writing for Junji Ito. So you get a glimpse, a long ass glimpse, because this book is, let's see, it is 300 pages long, and the text is not full page. It's inset. Like there are decorative backgrounds, actually panels of Junji Ito stuff, and the text is inset in a white box. So I mean, it's still going to take you a good chunk of time to read this book. So you're not going to blow through it, but it's not a full prose book. It's also not a full art book. It's like a hybrid, and I think it's great. Get it. Just take the dust cover and throw it away, because the actual cover is awesome. The dust cover it's just typography based. The actual cover of the book is Junji Ito's drawings themselves. So yeah, from Viz, of course, Junji Ito, The Origins of Fear. I think it's essential if you like Junji Ito. Yeah.
Oh, here it is. I was just making sure our boys at Cheap Graphic Novels had it, and they do.
Yep, I love it.
Nice.
It captivated me.
Love it.
Because, I mean, his stories, you don't get the sense of the author in his stories. Like, like Hanselman himself is kind of front and center in his, even though he's not a character, like you could actually feel the dude in his stories. Ito's kind of invisible. And so now I have a better grasp of the man himself.
So he's 61 years old.
Yes. Yeah.
Nice.
He was born in 1963, I think.
All right.
Yep.
He's just a little bit younger than you.
A little bit. Glad I could be of service.
Good stuff.
Yeah.
I like it a lot.
What else?
Let's see. A couple of first issues came out this week.
Facts.
Won't talk about the one that I know Jason is dying.
Why not? Why don't we talk about it?
Okay, we can get right into it then.
Let's fucking get into it. Let's do it.
So, after Duke, after Cobra Commander, after Destro, after Scarlet, we now finally have the first issue of the Energon Universe's G.I. Joe by Joshua Williamson and Tom Riley and Jordi Belair and Russ Houghton on letters, and I'm pretty sure it's the same creative team that gave us Duke, and I like that, since Duke pretty much was the lead into this more than the others, that we have that conceptual continuity. I liked it a lot. I didn't know if we hit the ground running. We really do, and
I guess the case may be, but
I mean, Duke is. I mean, we're getting the band together.
I was making a joke. They're flying. Is what I'm saying.
You're right. You're right.
Yes.
They are. That is funny. But yeah, we get we get as everybody is flying. We get introduced to Rock and Roll and Stalker and Clutch and CoverGirl and of course Baroness, because hey, why is Baroness on a G.I. Joe team? Well, that's why you got to read the Duke miniseries. It really is something that I think these weren't, the four lead-ins really weren't just kind of like throwaway stories. I mean, Scarlet, we'll wait to see how it plays into it, but everything else kind of, they all made sense. We all had to read those to get here, and I'm not upset about that really. But yeah, I think Duke obviously has I one of my favorite pages were when Flag came by to talk to Duke and basically let him know, Duke is beating himself up because he wants the team to basically be clones of him. Whatever he can get through, whatever he experiences, whatever he does to complete a mission, he wants everybody else to kind of be that way. And Flag is just like, no. He's like, this is what it takes to lead a team, and why your team will be unlike any other team, and nobody can touch you guys. And it was a cool moment within everything else that was going on in the issue. But I thought I thought, as far as because I am behind on the other G.I. Joe series, the Hammer written book, so I'm not sure
Well, that's its own thing. There's.
I know, and so I'm not trying to compare characterizations from one to the other. But no, I thought, I mean, even the interaction with Destro and Cobra Commander, like it just, I did this felt like a comfortable issue. I read this and I was like, this was a G.I. Joe book. I can see me continuing. I didn't feel like I did in the 80s reading the original G.I. Joe comic that Marvel put out, but it did give me that feeling that this is a series that I want to continue. I want to see where we're going here. And so it was reminiscent to that. But yeah, I as far as first issue goes, that maybe not really our first issue since a lot led up to this. I thought it was another home run from Skybound as far as the Energon universe is concerned.
Can I say one thing before Jason gives his commentary? Because I just want to see if you're on the same page with me with this. Far be it from me to criticize the work of a well-regarded and respected colorist, but I think Jordy dropped the ball on this issue. I think the colors after there's a certain point, like from the Cobra Commander intro page on, I think the color doesn't work at all. The purple and the yellow alternating because
there is almost like a tone, almost like there's like a wash. It's almost like a wash.
Yeah, the first page I think is great. I love the color art on the first page, and then the splash is fine, and then it's great up until the Springfield. Then I think it goes off the rails a bit in terms of just odd. I mean, they're obvious pairings. If you're going to use a peachy orange, you're going to use a tealy blue, right? It just makes sense. But I just it doesn't fit for me for a G.I. Joe book. It looks it's too distracting. Yeah, I don't know, but that's just my opinion. I didn't actually read it. I'm just going by pure visuals.
Okay. Well, I don't actually disagree with you on the wash. It seemed like an odd choice. And it's funny. I don't know why I didn't think of Jordy as the culprit there. I guess I was like, oh, that's weird that Tom wanted to wash. Like I assumed it was his decision, like guidance, like he wanted to wash on the stuff. But I'm with you. I probably would have liked a more conventional color play that like we saw in Duke. But I can't say that really affected my love for the issue because I think it got a lot right. I mean, to Dapp's point, it certainly does reward those of us who have been around for the 4 miniseries. Well, or I guess more to the point that for a few of the miniseries, it doesn't really. None of the characters from Scarlet are in it yet, and a lot of the characters from the Cobra Commander arc, which were the Dreadnoks and Zartan and stuff, also aren't in it yet, but they will be. We know. But you know how I am for getting a band together, and that's how this issue starts. Duke is talking to he's third person off camera, introducing us to each of the members and why he picked them and their attributes, which of course is just pure Viagra for me. And then, like Dapp said, we meet Destro and Cobra Commander, and I love that they show Cobra Commander with this like cybernetic clawed hand because his actual hand's been cut off, and he's putting his glove on, and you can see kind of like the snake like skin and stuff as he's putting his sleeve up. Like I love that. And then the thing that just had me marking out like an absolute fanboy is that Destro's like, well, we're building this army, we're kicking ass. The Energon that we have is really helping us build these awesome weapons. And Cobra Commander's like, dude, all you ever do is give me more guns. Like don't we have enough guns? And all of a sudden he shoots it, and it shoots laser beams and destroys the target. And I was like, oh my God, because, listen, as we know, G.I. Joe was a toy line before it was anything. And then we got the cartoon and the comic at the same time, which were smack dab as my childhood cocaine. And in the cartoon, of course, Joe and Cobra shot laser. All their guns shot lasers, and no one ever died. And in this scene, we get a retcon for why they're shooting laser beams, because it's energon weapons. but it's fucking even more lethal. So yes, there are laser beams like you saw in the 80s, but they're way more deadly than bullets. And I thought that was so sweet because we never, in all the years of having G.I. Joe comics, we never addressed why they were shooting laser beams, and they wouldn't hurt anybody. So I love that these are now we know why the laser beams are there instead of bullets, but that they're super deadly. For me as a lifelong G.I. Joe nostalgia boy, that was perfect, and I was like, holy shit, that's great. I really do like the smaller team focuses right now to start because we know, of course, if this goes on for a long time, we'll get more and more character introductions. Yeah, and I'm with it. And I like the unconventional choices of like having CoverGirl as the first girl instead of Scarlet, and just all these little things that probably wouldn't matter much to a lot of people, but if you're a lifelong Joe fan, I think really just little chef's kiss. And I thought it was well paced, and I love that there are serious consequences. Like they're like there's death involved. There's murder. They're at war. And another interesting dichotomy here is that Cobra is super well funded, and they have the Energon from the Decepticons. Whereas, at least at the start of the series, the G.I. Joe are basically a guerrilla special ops force with very little budget. And that will be interesting because in most of the Joe continuity, they basically had unlimited funding, right? Like they had all the crazy weapons and tech and bases and vehicles too, and they don't in this. And I'm here for that. So I just loved every bit of it. I think Riley's art continues to impress me. He's certainly a Somni acolyte, and I think it shows. It's not the most detailed stuff, but I think it's just enough to tell the story, and I'm here for it. I already reached out to Josh Raybuck, who is his rep. Unfortunately, issue 1 sold complete. He pulled a Felix, but that's fine. More power and much love to I'm sure that's good money for Riley. So yeah, I thought it was great. Absolutely everything I wanted to see in a first issue, and as I understand it, it sold an ungodly amount of copies. So I have a feeling we're going to get a nice long run of this version of Joe.
Nice.
Love it.
More than nice, Vince. Why didn't you read it?
I couldn't fit it in. I'm
God,
not reluctant to read it. I'll get to it. I just didn't. I couldn't put it on the schedule. It just came out yesterday. Yes. I read a 300-page prose book.
To be fair, we got it days before that, but yes, you're right.
I will not read digital, but whatever.
Okay. Tell us what you read then. You already did, but whatever.
Whatever, dude.
I'm teasing, bro. I'm teasing.
I know. Yeah. Dap. Why don't you talk about that other thing that you're going to talk about? Well, Dap didn't really go. He just basically set it up for you.
That's true. That is true. Yeah,
that's fine. I didn't get through as much as I wanted to this week, but the other first issue.
I was going to say you said there were multiple first issues. Yeah.
Yes, the other first issue that I read when it came out this week was yet another all-in from DC. Trying again with this character, so I always have to give it a shot. Thanks to Mike W. Barr and Jim Aparo. Black Lightning #1 by Brandon Thomas, FICO Ashio, and Ulysses Areola on colors. I know I butchered everybody's
name. So you say Areola? He's got big old
nips. I tried to not say that because it's 2 R's, but it's spelled very similar.
Did you hear about the Michelle Beadle? Did you hear about the Michelle Beadle thing this week, Dad?
No.
Well, we can talk about it at the end of the show. It's not comics related, so never. But okay. It's funny. It's related to a very unfortunate statement of a word on national TV. But
oh, okay.
Yeah.
This takes place right after Absolute Power, and actually, there's some scenes that take place during Absolute Power because right on the first page we see the results of the night Amanda Waller won, and it's pretty much when Black Lightning and his daughters Jennifer, who goes by Lightning, and Anissa, who goes by Thunder, were losing their powers, and we're after that now. Obviously, Waller has been dealt with. People more or less have their powers back. Some people don't. Other people do. And we see that Black Lightning now has the ability to fly, but he's on his way to Garfield High, the formerly suicide slum in Metropolis, where a student is looks like he's about to be swatted. He's in the men's room. He's in the bathroom, and the bathroom's kind of been close to destroyed. And the police are giving him the 10 count until they start coming in with guns blazing. But before anything bad can happen, Black Lightning shows up, pulls the kid out of danger. Kid's name is Isaac, and tells him that they're going to go get to the bottom of his issue. And so they head up to the watchtower, where we see heroes wandering about. We see Blue Beetle, and then we see, of course, the Atom, Ryan Choi, who's going to basically kind of do the experiments on young Isaac to see what's going on. But while that's happening, you get the sisters talking to each other, because while Lightning is with Dad up in space, the Thunder is kind of keeping to herself and kind of hiding out. She's not. I'm not real sure what kind of friction there may be between father and daughter. Hopefully that'll get. We'll see that get fleshed out. Back at the Watchtower, Superman and Black Lightning are having a bit of a chat, and for some reason shake with their left hands. And then basically, Superman's kind of not necessarily giving him a pep talk, but he's asking Jefferson about the family, making sure that this kid Isaac is in good hands. Superman is proud of what Black Lightning does, especially for the youth and back home. But this initiative, especially with everybody trying to figure out if people who never had powers now do, and how people are reacting to or dealing with the differences in whatever powers they had following absolute power. So this initiative is a good idea, moving forward with it. But there is a problem, and Isaac is kind of wiling out, and so Jennifer runs in as Lightning to kind of diffuse the situation, and she's a little on the proud side because she wants to handle this, because she doesn't want Dad to always kind of swoop in and help her save the day. But Dad's did a reminder that also it's okay to ask for help sometimes. But I mean, and had he figured, she had it under control, or she'd be able to handle it fine, no problem. But we're also like out in space, so it's okay to maybe take the assist. Don't worry about trying to do it all on your own. And while that's happening, there's a Steelworks elevated train that's having looks like some electrical damage going on. Black Lightning shows up to save the day there. But the person who is all like in orange and red and seems almost like they're not quite on fire, but they seem to be the reason why this train is literally going off the rails. And turns out that, well, I don't want to spoil the last page, but they do prevent the any problems with the train, but there is the person who's responsible for the damage ends up falling off the train, and seemingly to their death. But Black Lightning does his best to save his daughter, to save Lightning, to save Jennifer, and then once once the smoke clears and he sees who the person was that was dealing the damage to the train is revealed. That's where we leave off with this issue. But yeah, I definitely have questions. And hopefully they'll be explained in this series. I'll give it another couple of issues to see, because I've read almost every time Black Lightning appears somewhere. I tend to check it out. The recent Clayton Henry drawn limited series from a few years ago was one that I enjoyed, and actually Tony Isabella did have a hand in that. Here, for some reason, it says Black Lightning created by Tony Isabella with Trevor Von Eaton, and I'm pretty sure Tony would say that he did come up with the concept. He did create the character kind of from nuts to bolts, and Trevor was there to kind of design it. But I think that's the first time I've seen the with. Every other time, I'm pretty sure I've always seen it created by both. But yeah, I said I'll be back. I'll be back for the next issue, just because I'm hoping that some of my questions might be answered. But the art was fine for the now Vince is in my head with the fine.
That's exactly what I thought. That's the perfect word I would use to describe this book.
I'm not in love with the Superman.
It's mediocre.
This version of Superman.
The Superman was rough.
No,
yeah.
it's when obviously when you guys put something on your list, right? I'll look at it and decide whether I want to contribute. I opened up this book, looked through about 5 pages, and I'm like, I don't have time for fine.
Right. Yeah. No. And I absolutely get that. And I didn't want to give it the short shrift. While the art, there's some pages that are better than others. I wanted to see what Thomas was going to do with the character. So that's really where my focus is right now. If the art moves the story along, that's great. But I am curious to know what's going on with Black Lightning and his satellite of characters. But yeah, I haven't read every single. I don't even know how many all-in issues there have been to date. Well, we read so Justice League Unlimited hasn't come out yet. I haven't tried Batgirl. I did read JSA, and I haven't checked out The Question. But yeah, I'll probably check them out, but as they drop in. But yeah, I had questions, so I'd like to see if they get answered. So I'll give it another couple of issues. But it was fine.
God love you.
I'll stick with that. I'll stick with that for you.
Dap is a hero because he spent 7 minutes more on this than I would have.
Yes.
I thought it was mid at best. Meaning it's to me it's just one of the 50 to 100 perfectly perfunctory superhero comics that come out each month that, if you really care for those characters, you're probably going to dig it. If you don't have much of a pull for those characters, you're going to just move on from it. I think we all have characters that we're into enough that, that kind of issue would be appealing to us. I don't, even though I like that superhero characters are far more mainstream than they used to be, this to me just read like an adaptation of the TV show. And I think that the character models were obviously patterned directly off the TV show actors. So
yes,
that was I could just go back and stream the TV show. I was like, okay, and again, I didn't dislike it. I didn't think it was badly done. And I don't want to sound like a hypocrite if this were, whatever equivalent Marvel character that I have a nostalgia for, I'd be like, oh, it was good. I liked it. But I wouldn't also cast side eye to anybody who was like, oh, I thought it was mid. So to me, this was mid because I don't really have much of a pull for Black Lightning. I enjoyed the TV show for what it was worth, but before the TV show, I had very little. And I'm reminded of the what was that? What were those books, Dap? A few years back during the George Floyd stuff, we got that really badass Black Lightning comic by can't think of his name.
The other history of the DC universe.
Yeah. That I thought was so good. And, probably unfairly, I held this up against that and thought, it's not as good. That's not really fair to do, but I did find myself doing it. So yeah. So I mean, again, if you like Black Lightning, I think you'd be pleased with this, right? Like it's like you'd be like, oh, okay, cool. Like yeah, this is a good Black Lightning comic, but I don't care enough about the characters, particularly his daughters, if being honest, to continue.
Fair enough.
Totally
Fair enough.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. The second part of my Viz-O-Rama. I mentioned him before, Kazuo Umezz. This is Orochi, the Perfect Edition, Volume 1.
Nice.
You have this?
Sorry, I've knocked my microphone. I don't have this version, but I have.
Okay.
So, did you hear me? I'm sorry, I knocked my mic.
Yeah, you have a previous version. I got you.
Yeah.
Again, written and illustrated by Kazuo Umezz, and it's published by Viz Select, of course. I have a lot to say about this book, so I'm going to try and keep it moving so as not to take up a shit ton of time. But it warrants it. This is a classic horror manga by a man who is regarded as the best horror mangaka ever. So you got to give him his due, I think. I don't know what it is about the horror genre and anthologies, but the Japanese seem to embrace both. As we've said, Junji Ito loves the anthology format, and Orochi is an anthology, and it's centered around there is a young lady, at least to the eye, she's a beautiful young lady, named Orochi, but looks can be very deceiving because Orochi possesses strange, seemingly magical powers. She can cloud the human mind with a touch. She has strength far beyond the level one would assume based on her body type and weight. She can cast illusions. She can project her consciousness into inanimate objects. The very elements appear to react to her actions. There's even more. Like, she's a mischievous sort, but she has, maybe you can call her a female Loki. She has powers. She likes to get into thick things, but she has a genuine and really often misguided concern for humans. So as the first volume progresses, you don't know exactly what makes Orochi tick. Is she supernatural? Is she superhuman? Is she just weird? Like, you never really get a beat on it. And it's an anthology, like I said, and there's two stories. One is short, one is long. And both of the stories, the protagonists are female. And a heap of pain and misery and heartbreak and horror are just thrown on these young ladies. And I'm thinking, wow, did Umezz have like a beef with women? Because these girls are mangled, right? Turns out these were produced for shoujo manga, which is for females. And so I get it. They were trying to, speak the language to the target audience. And it works. If you're a young lady and you were reading these stories, I could see you being summarily horrified by the events of these stories. First one is called Sisters. It's a slight little tale about two beautiful, well-to-do sisters, Rumi, who is the younger, and Emi, who is a year older. And Orochi enters their lives just to get out of the rain. Like, it's raining out, the storm is brewing, and she's just like, oh shit, I gotta get out of this rain. And she goes to the home, rings the doorbell, and the sister comes to the door, and she touches her on the forehead. And Rumi's like, oh, you must be our new maid. And Orochi's like, yeah, that's me. I'm that person. So it integrates into the pair, and that's when things turn really weird. Orochi breaks a plate. And she's picking up the pieces and she's counting them as she's picking them up, which is okay. It's kind of strange. And she gets 17 and she's getting to 18 and she utters the number 18 and the sisters freak the fuck out. Like, they go ballistic, screaming, grabbing their hair, crying. It's like, wait, what the hell's going on here? And they warn Orochi to stay away from a room on an upper floor, right? I'll spoil it and get to the meat of this story. The room houses the girl's mother. And she's not long for the world. Turns out, the Rujin family bears a curse. Upon their 18th birthday, the women start to turn ugly. They get covered in warts, haggard, physical appearance that far belies their youth. And the problem is that, wouldn't you know it, Emmy's turning 18 very, very soon. And as mom dies, she whispers something to Rumi that throws the entire narrative into chaos. It does not end well. It gets pretty brutal. One of the sisters ends up burning her face with a hot poker. Another one gets the shit beat out of her on a constant basis. But the thing that gets me is these stories were created in 69 and 70.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And it's like, they're not very explicit. The violence is there, but it's not like, super, it's bloody. There's more suggested that's actually shown, right? And I'm thinking, I think that's even worse because it's actually more horrifying. Like, Umezz is so amazing with the visuals that you can actually feel the horror in the eyes of these girls. And it goes to a place where it's like super, extremely dark, where you have two supposed siblings at each other's throat. And Orochi's just like a satellite. She's watching shit as it's going down. Like, she tries to help, but she doesn't really understand the human condition, I don't think. And there are incidents like in the next story called Bones where she ends up making stuff really worse. Again, the main protagonist of Bones is a young woman named Chie, and she's had an extremely tough life. Her birth caused the death of her mother. Her father wanted nothing to do with her. He became a raging drunk. He remarried, and both he and his wife physically and emotionally abused Chie. The family didn't have any money because dad was a drunk. Chie hardly went to school. And when she did, the children would call her names and abuse her. Her parents made her earn her keep by tending to their bedridden grandfather, who also abused her verbally. It's like this kid could not catch a break. But she grows into a beautiful young woman, against all odds, right? And her father decides to exploit that fact and sell her for a hefty sum to an eager suitor. A dowry, right? So it turns out, though, that Chie's husband's a really good man. Good guy. Like, he treats her with respect and love, everything she was denied for all her life, and she knows happiness for the first time. Until the guy gets struck by a car. He's walking across the street and he gets friggin' hit by a car and it almost kills him, right? So he lands in the hospital. And just who do you think is his nurse? Who do you think his nurse would be? Orochi. Yeah. So she feels Chie's sadness and she helps the husband recuperate much faster than the doctors had anticipated. So much so that the guy gets to go home. Saburo's going home. He's all happy. And he can feel his old self slowly returning. He gets a little spring in his step and he's like, I'm going to go for a walk. I'm going to lock into this therapy stuff. I'm going to go take a little stroll by myself. And he falls off a cliff and dies.
Yeah.
It's fucked up, man. And Chie's heartbroken. She prays for him to return. Oh, the love of my life is gone. He made me so happy. But Orochi sees her pain. And so she takes things into her own hands. She fashions a life-size effigy of Saburo. And she hopes, with a heaping helping of her blood, she slashes her wrist and she drains her blood into this effigy, and she hopes to bring it to life to quell Chie's sadness. But the spell's not a success. The effigy crumbles into a ton of pieces. Orochi passes out. She's exhausted. The hospital floor is covered in her blood. But I think it was disingenuous to say that the spell is not a success. It wasn't a success, at least for the effigy, but something does stir, right? just not the target of her spell. And the events go straight to hell after Chie remarries. She finds a new husband, and what do you know? She has a baby, right? And everything's all happy, and she's joyous, and that's when Saburo comes back and makes her life miserable. It doesn't. There are things in the second story that I was like, "Oh no, you didn't!" Like, because we take things for granted. Like whenever a small animal or a young child is introduced, unless you're reading Pet Sematary, usually whenever the innocent are injected into a story, you can bet that something will save them in the nick of time, or it won't turn disastrous. I mean, odds are that the author will finish the thing on the side of the light, at least as far as these young innocent things. But this story does not go that direction. It is messed up, and again, 1970. I was like, holy crap, this is brutal. How did you get away with this? That's nightmare fuel. This is Jason, you know what I'm talking about, right?
Oh yeah.
It's really bad. And again, it's not super explicit. It's not I mean, there are some things that you see, but most of it is left to the power, like H.R. Giger and Dan O'Bannon and Alien. Like most of it's left into that zone where your brain is filling in the blanks, and that's even worse, man. But so I mean, if you love horror and you want to see how it's done right, and it's vintage, it's so well drawn. You can actually there are a number of panels where I'm going through this thing and I'm like, that's an all-timer. That panel right there, that's an all-timer. Like you rarely encounter pure horror in the eyes of the characters like this. Like this is potent stuff. You can feel it. You can feel how crazed the characters are. Like when in the first story, Sisters, when Rumi hears something, I won't spoil it, and she grabs her hair and she's screaming and she's almost looking at the viewer. It's like, that is really amazingly powerful stuff. So go get this. And the great thing about Orochi is that it's one of those manga series that's not going to break the bank, because there's only 4 volumes and then it's done. There's no more. So I think, how much was it? I think it's like, where is it? Right here. The cover price is $26.99, and that's for, oh god, it's over 300 pages. So yeah, hardcover, foil embossed cover.
So are you talking about the perfect edition?
Yes, I have. This is what
I have it too. So is this resolicited recently? Because I got it in 2022. I looked on it.
No, I'm just going back reading stuff I didn't get a chance to go over.
Okay. Yeah. So I do have the same version now.
Yeah, it's beautiful stuff. Viz doesn't screw around with the classics, so or anything for that matter. So get it, Orochi. It is awesome. David hates children, so maybe this is a good inroads to manga horror for.
Yeah, children being tortured is right up Dap's alley.
Yeah, the child gets kidnapped and Chie receives a box in the mail. She's like, "Oh, a box!" And it's a little person's hand in the box.
Ooh. It wasn't a dick in the box; it was a hand in the box. Yeah.
But again, no spoilers. You got to read it. I'm not giving anything away. She does get a hand, but is it the hand of her child? You don't know. I'm not going to say. Just read it. It's great. It's really great. It's nightmare fuel.
Easer.
Oh, my body's falling apart.
Scary.
I was giddy reading this. I'm like, oh shit.
I love it.
Yeah.
I love it.
But what about,
Yes.
Whoa, so this is worth its weight in
gold. No, you didn't.
Yeah. Again, we're all looking for something to take our mind off current events, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, just plunge into the darkness. I mean, it's fitting, right? We're all feeling that little bit. Plunge into the darkness with Junji Ito or Kazuo Umezz, and it's worthwhile experience. Yep.
Yes.
What else do we have? Well, let me check the clock here. Oh, we got time. We got lots of time. Speak on it. What else do we have, Jason?
So, over the years, I have talked a few times about books by Francois Schuiten and Benoit Peters. They're a they've been working together. They're like the French version of Brubaker and they have done comics together for going on 50 years. They started working together in 1980.
Could be us soon.
Yeah, right. Some of the books we've talked about over the years are The Leaning Girl, The Shadow of a Man, Samaras. All of these books are loosely connected in what is known as the Obscure Cities, which is their own name for it, and they mean obscure in the manner of like standalone, not like odd. Right? We the English translation of obscure makes us think weird. That is not what they mean. They mean just odd or standalone. So their work together is generally considered. It's all called the Obscure Cities. Each story, even though many of them, well, no, the majority of them are not connected really in any way other than that very loose continuity idea of in this world where they tell stories. It's a counter Earth where there are separate. The world's evolved into separate city states with vastly different cultures, rules, styles. That just basically gives them carte blanche to tell whatever stories they feel like telling under their umbrella. But the one that just came out this. Well, we got the U.S. translated version this month, is by far my favorite and my most anticipated. And that is The Obscure Cities, The Return of Captain Nemo. Yes.
Ooh.
Yes. So this is not what I would call your typical comic. It's a 96-page book, hardcover. It is it's like treasury sized. So it's nice big full pages. But the majority of the book, the first 54 pages, are more of a storybook. You've got 54 pages on the left-hand side of each, so 27 two-page units. On the left is text, like prose, and then on the right is a full-page illustration by Peters. So 27 spot illustrations. And these are black and white and hyper detailed crosshatch, like thousands of lines on each page, almost like etchings. And then that's the main story until the end of the main story, which then over, I don't know, it's maybe 8 or 10 pages, turns into a more traditional sequential comic style, sequential pages where you transition from the black and white to full color by the end of that sequence. And the reason for that is because the story is a take on Captain Nemo. In this version, Captain Nemo is groggy, comes to, he doesn't quite remember everything, and he's inside of a boat. But it's not the Nautilus, at least not the one that we're familiar with. It is it's called the Nauta Octopus. So play on Nautilus, and it's a ship that actually looks like a giant it looks more like a giant squid, honestly, than an octopus, but they call it the Nauta Octopus. I guess the French aren't sticklers for correctly naming their anatomical machines. But in essence, he's, and then the book serves to essentially walk you through his memories of being born in India and dealing with the British takeover and fighting against that, and then becoming Captain Nemo, and then. It's a pretty, I think, fair encapsulation of the Jules Verne narrative, going through it by the key moments. But now he finds himself alone, old, and in this ship that he doesn't remember anything about, and eventually goes back to his last on-land home, and that's where the book goes from these beautiful full-page spot illustrations to the sequentials, where he finally parks the ship, the Nauta Octopus, gets out of the ship and starts walking on into the city. And he finds himself back to his old mansion where he lived, and actually walks back into the mansion. And this is the first time that Nemo has been on land in, many, many decades. And so it's like goes from black and white to color, which was an interesting choice, right? Because you would think for Nemo, his color would be the sea. Right, and the land would be a distant memory, would be black and white. So they kind of flipped the script there. But it's just, I'm a fan of Jules Verne and Nemo, and obviously undersea stories in general. So this was just an absolutely gorgeous experience. I mean, these full-page spot illustrations are just to die for. That's pretty much the whole story. There's more to the book in that There's also, I don't know, maybe a dozen or so pages of another story. It is the opening pages of another book they did that adapted Jules Verne's Paris in the 20th century. I guess these guys are huge Jules Verne marks. Apparently, next year they will be in a city in France. It's called, I don't know if I'm saying it right, Amiens or Armenz, or I don't know, Armiens. There's a city in Paris where Peters is actually, he's a sculptor too, apparently, and he is currently working on a massive life-sized version of this version of the Nautilus that's being turned into a bronze statue of it that's going to be unveiled in this city, which is where Jules Verne ended up retiring. So
that's
pretty neat stuff.
Insane. It's crazy.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. Yeah, like they're like hardcore Verne acolytes. But it's just a beautiful book, and if you have any affinity for Jules Verne or Captain Nemo and any of his renditions, you'll adore this. It's just a beautiful book, and it's like I said, it's not like comics in the traditional sense for most of it, but it's still certainly sequential storytelling and beautiful sequential storytelling at that. So I adored it. Right up my alley. It's also, if you are familiar with the obscure cities, like not only are the stories largely disconnected from one another, but their approach to each is very different. Many of them in the past have been straight up classic graphic novels, full color sequential stories. So this is a different approach on many levels than some of the other stuff you may be familiar with from Schweden and Peters. But it's definitely a home run, if you have any affinity for the underlying subject matter. There's also a very nice, very detailed biography of Jules Verne and his early success with 20,000 Leagues, and then basically he struggled to match that success. There's a letter that they recap by his publisher and editor, basically telling him that like the submission that he sent them for Paris in the 20th century was like total trash, and how much it like hurt his heart to tell him that, but it was like a terrible, terrible effort, and he had to go back to the drawing board. So this book wears multiple hats, but for me, even if it was just the 54 pages of the Nemo stuff, that would be perfectly fine for me. All the rest is just nice bonus stuff. So check it out. It's it's called The Obscure Cities: The Return of Captain Nemo. It is published by Alexis Press, but you can find it widely. I pre-ordered mine through DCBS, but you can get it, Amazon, I'm sure, any other place that sells books. So, definitely, again, a really, really nice addition to the nautical shelf.
Nice. It does not surprise me that you have a nautical shelf.
Oh, of course.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Hey, everybody, get out of there. Thank you for listening to us one more time. We hope you come back next time because we'll have more of the same. In the meantime, do us a favor. Wherever you listen to this, leave us a review. Maybe a thumb up or whatever you want to do, or a short little text. Hey, listen to this, whatever. And don't forget, solicit our sponsor, cheapgraphicnovels.com, because they're going to get you all the stuff at the price you want to pay. Get the email confirmation, respond to the email confirmation, get free shipping. It's that simple. It's amazing. And last but certainly not least, check out the Patreon page, patreon.com/11 o'clock comics, and look for us. If you've made the transition to Blue Sky, look for us on there too. Because we're all there, right? But look specifically for 11 o'clock comics on there. We would appreciate it. And we'll follow
It's
back.
just 11o'clockcomics.bsky.social.
So if they just search for 11 o'clock comics, it'll come up.
I assume so?
Yeah.
I'm not quite...
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Perfect.
Yeah. I have something, it's really weird and brutal, but I kind of loved it a lot. Okay, with one caveat, I'm not going to recommend the whole book because this thing is called Battle Action, and it's from Rebellion. And what it is an homage to those great British anthologies like Eagle and Warlord and Battle and Valiant. Like, there's been a long list of really good British anthologies, battle action, and this is just a tip of the hat to those. The driving creative force on this series is, as you would expect, Garth Ennis, who does the main story. It's called Garth Ennis, and Keith Burns is Johnny Red. A couple of heroes. Johnny Red is a RAF pilot that ends up flying for the Russians. I enjoyed it, but it's not the reason why I came. The reason why I came is a little story called The Septic, which is written by Brian K. Vaughan. That's a big name. And illustrated by Chris Burnham. What? Yeah, with color art by Len O'Grady.
Okay.
What this story is, it's a sort of a moment in between the raindrops in a strip that was called Kids Rule OK, which was created by Chris Lauder and Mike White. The premise of which is in 1986, a plague kills off all the adults, and the kids are left to fend for themselves. And this takes place within that narrative, focusing on little Davy. Davy is the son of Reagan's ambassador to the United Kingdom. So he's firmly situated within the UK, and he's not digging it at all. He's kind of hating it. He doesn't like, where they're at. He doesn't like his supposed friends who call him septic because he is shit. And the British and the American kid, they're just not getting along because he's in this is emblematic of the relationship. He's in the library and he's reading a comic, Dark Knight Returns, and a British kid goes, "Are you seriously reading Batman?" And he's like, that's like shit. And he's like, "No, it's not shit. Doctor Who is shit." And the British kid freaks out. He's like, "Take it back." But the plague hits and it all goes to hell. And thankfully, Mom presented the Davy with an Uzi before the plague took her. So now he's armed. He's got an Uzi with which to defend himself, and the world goes to hell in a handbasket. And he sees himself as a cross between Storm Shadow and the Terminator and what's his name? The guy that can do anything and win any fight. The Total Body Gym.
I thought you were going to say Mr. Terrific.
Chuck Norris.
Oh,
right?
Shit. Okay.
Yeah. And right. So, there's a commentary on the American Revolution at the end, vis-a-vis the ending of this story. It's brutal. It's nasty. It's bloody. And it's Chris Burnham. So that's why I read it. And I was not disappointed. There's death and vomiting and people getting their heads crushed in. And it's Chris Burnham and Brian K. Vaughan. And it's a wonderful little story nestled in the back of this battle action anthology. You don't have to bring anything other to the table than a love for BKV and Chris Burnham. You don't even have to read the main story if you don't want to. It is continued. So check it out. Battle Action #1 by Rebellion, of course. I think it's a monthly. It's the 3rd volume. There have been 2 12-issue iterations of this magazine prior to this first issue. So this is volume 3. Yep. Yeah, it's not bad. Burnham's nice. A fucker, man. It's really, it alternates between cute and disgusting, which is what we come to expect from Burnham.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
In your travels, I'm going to talk about this next time because it just arrived. It was a trade that I had backed. This is the 2nd volume, the last half of a thing called Truth, which originally started as a Image limited series. There were 5 issues. That came out back in 2021. They decided to self-publish, and it was assembled in Italy and finally finished. I received it. I plan on reading it this weekend so I can talk about it. So I don't know if it's weird. I don't know if I can. I'm sure you can look for it and possibly and anybody who read the original miniseries, if you're wondering what happened with our heroines, then the second volume will fill that in. I'm not sure if it's available at a storefront. I'll find out once I get into it. But I'm looking forward to it. So in your travels, if you haven't read the original 5 issues, I would recommend it. The art is very reminiscent to early Joel Jones. It is by the 2 women are Ayolanda Zanfardino and Elisa Romboli, and they're both artists because they've done they would have variant covers drawn by each of them for each of the issues. But yeah, that's what I'm looking forward to. If you haven't, I would definitely recommend checking it out in your travels. But before I forget, I was wrong about Lois and Clark: The New Adventures of Superman. The first episode, I believe, premiered in like '93. So the engagement in the comics was before. And our you can find us on Blue Sky at 110c.bsky because I'm not going to bog you down with the information as to why the other link that Jason gave you won't work, but we'll finalize everything. But yeah, all 3 of us and 110C, we're all on Blue Sky.
Nice. In your travels, I got 2 things. I'm just going to be quick with them because I don't know if I don't talk about it tonight, I'm going to forget to talk about them. So, first up, shout out to longtime friend of the show, Tim Meekins, because he turned me onto this today, actually. So this is a hot off the presses. And this is the naughty stuff. This is the put your kids to bed before you hear us talk about this. This is called the Jenitales because the creator is Jennifer Gilblad, Gyllblad. And you can Google her, but you can find her stuff on jennygilblad.com. So Tim posted some art that he purchased from her today. And I was like, oh, what is this right here? Turns out she's been making comics for quite a bit of time, many of which are not erotica, I should mention. But the ones in question tonight are, in fact, erotica. She's got 4 volumes of it. She's got Jenitales, Jenitales Rough Hex, Jenitales Artesia, and Jenitales Vegasm, like vegan, Vegasm. And it's one N, Jenitales. They're fun stuff. It is hardcore erotica, thematic porn told from a female point of view. It's anthology, 4 or 5 stories per volume, very explicit. And visually, what I found interesting, it was almost naughty because the art reminded me a lot of like our girl Tana's art. So it was like, what if Tana drew porn, which she has not done? But like, I was like, okay. So it's like Tana Ford, Sarah Richard school, but erotica, hardcore stuff. Definitely, very entertaining for it. And I will say that to Jenny's credit, like you can there's lots of ways you can receive the book. You can very reasonably priced. Like I bought the first 3 volumes digital version for $18, which is super inexpensive, I think, for 3 full anthologies. So check it out if that kind of stuff is your bag. And then in probably a far more broadly appealing thing in your travels, check out Simpsons Treehouse of Horrors Omnibus, Volume 3. Now, Vince, I believe this is the final volume, right? Or at least the as far as we know?
Yeah, it's done with the 3rd.
Okay. So you've heard Vince and I gush about the first 2 volumes before, so that's why I said I don't have to go deep into this. It's another incredibly gorgeous slipcase, like their production values off the charts. And, just more fun, more of the same, but really great stuff. And I just will highlight a few things for this volume that stood out to me. There's a Stan Sakai story. There's a Gilbert Hernandez story. There is a Paul Dini Blob story. And you guys know that Blob was like this movie that scared the shit out of me as a kid. There is, and then probably most interesting, the last 2, there is a Garth Ennis, John McCrae, a.k.a. Team Hitman story that is a takeoff on Aliens, which I thought was wild. And last but certainly not least, there's a Wolfman Gene Colan Dracula story featuring Blade, which I thought was wonderful. So great stuff, as were the first 2 volumes. So these are all awesome and definitely worth your shekels.
Yeah, you're not lying. They're great books.
For sure, man. Awesome. Awesome stuff.
I'm not going to say anything else, but they're great books.
I know you hate they're told out of continuity, right? Like you hate that.
It's a little weird that they shuffled the around the like. What would have hurt them to just do them in order, right? And then another thing, there's no covers in the book. That's just silly. Why would you not?
You have there's an index in the back of each with the creator's bibliography, but you right the front the opening table of contents just has the stories and what volume of the comic they're from. It doesn't have the creators.
It's a little. I mean, I got no beef against Abrams. I'm just grateful that these things have been reprinted to begin with in such a beautiful format, a resilient, long-lasting, aesthetically pleasing format. But like, yeah, we can nitpick. It just, I mean, if it's an archival presentation of these things, why aren't they archived as they were presented, with the all of the materials for each? It just doesn't make sense to me. But again, give me more. Now here's what you want to do. If you want to make amends for this, start with an archival reprinting of all of the Simpsons and Bart Simpson. Big ass omnibus editions of that run. Because if you have holes in your collection, if you can find them at all, they will be very expensive. So if you got them, reprint them. We'll buy them.
Did you see Strike Force Moratori Omnibus this month?
I did. I saw that.
So fucking so giddy.
Mm-hmm. Yep. That's a good thing. It's a good thing. So there you go, people. Thank you for being here with us one more time. We hope you come back next time. You know the drill. Get yourself to a comic shop. Buy something. Talk about it with other people, like-minded individuals. Come back next time. We'll probably talk about it as well. Because we love comics just as much as you do. Say good night. What am I looking at here? Boop, boop, boop. Let me get something going. Don't! I think that's appropriate. Don't! There's a little bit of lag between that. The do and the David. A little bit of lag.
Good night.
I love the duck.
Yeah.
The duck is the best.
Never gets old.
I'm predicting.
David.
Yes. Tell them you love them so much.
So much.
A haven in a sea of madness.
That's it for that one.